Welcome back, everyone, to the Sensitivity Doctor. I am so excited to share this reunion episode with Dr. Jeanne. She came to give us the update on all of her amazing things she's doing in her career and even the things that she's saying no to. We explore the impact of perfectionism, of listening to your intuition, what it's like to be an HSP on the go, trying to travel the world and just kill it at the things that you love. And the thing that I really loved about this conversation that I hope really resonates for all of you is that if you're struggling to find that thing that aligns with you energetically, whether it be in your work or your relationships or whatever it may be, I think this conversation will motivate you to listen to your body, listen to that HSP gift of intuition, and finally make the move or end the thing that's not working for you. We also talk about her amazing product, Figgy Beauty, and the incredible things she's doing throughout the world with this brand that so truly aligns with her energy and who she is. So I hope you enjoy. This is so crazy having you here as my guest, but I feel like it's more like a reunion episode than just like you're the guest.
It feels like old times. It doesn't feel like anything weird.
Nope, not at all. So I wanted to not only have you come back to just honestly get an update and for, listeners who miss you and want to hear from you, but you've had some incredible things happen with your passions and your business. And I also know as a highly sensitive person and like the kind with a really sensitive nervous system, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
How in the world you are managing all this travel that you do and all of your ventures and protecting your energy.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't even know how you're doing it. So I would love to start with that. Maybe you could just update people on what I'm probably talking about, which is all of your amazing ventures you have going on. But what are you doing to protect your highly sensitive energy so you can do all this?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I think people would always like the answer to be super short and to the point, this is what I do, this is what works, and this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a holistic approach to kind of everything, staying in touch with your sleeping habits, your eating habits. A lot of what helps me, because a lot of what upsets me is uncertainty and insecurity in something and wondering about something. So the foundations need to be there, which is our weekly Sunday talk with my husband, where we set our schedule. We have a shared calendar. Everything goes on the calendar. He travels a lot as well. So we know the rule is whoever booked travel first for that period, they get to travel first. The other person is responsible for then getting a nanny or sorting out their travel if they need to travel at the same time.
Oh, that's an interesting agreement.
Yeah, and no judgment for it, right? So those kind of
I have my big, massive smoothie here. Sorry.
Oh, I love it. I love
We're
it.
meeting at lunchtime today, so my time.
Yeah, so that helps a lot because now you go into it knowing exactly who's responsible for what and who's going to be seeing to what. And also just kind of understanding what you are willing and able to do and what you are not. So one of those would be stepping away from the things that you can't do anymore, which sadly one of them was the podcast that I couldn't commit to anymore. But these are necessary steps that you ultimately need to take because everything starts weighing on you so heavily and then all the pieces of the puzzle start to fall. It's like a domino effect. First you start sleeping less, then you start sleeping badly, then you start eating badly, and then it all just falls apart. So it's this kind of house of cards that you always kind of need to hold together, which seems like a lot, but it's also for somebody as sensitive and perfectionistic and as anxious as I am, good, because that gives me safety and security in what is going on with everything.
Mm-hmm. Would you still call yourself a perfectionist after all these different moments where you've had to set boundaries and you survived that?
Oh yeah, I would definitely, because that's something I still struggle with every single time I have to do it. Every time I do something that's taking me too much time or that I'm stressing out about too much, I have to tell myself sometimes done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. And it absolutely kills me to then have to let go of that, whatever that is, whether it's an article I've written or a project I have helped my daughter with. Like sometimes done is just better than perfect. And it's definitely not my natural behavioral tendency.
What if done, what if we took that saying and said done is always better than perfect?
Yeah, that's very cool. I think I should change that saying and tell myself done is always better than perfect. Because the
I
thing
mean, I
is, you
think,
start procrastinating then also, right? Because now everything else is falling behind because you're focusing on this small little part that you're trying to get so perfect, and everything else is starting to become this whole bowl of stress. Yeah, I like that.
it's ironic because after I chat with you, I'm going to be chatting with a really amazing author about her book that we are going to literally be talking about how perfection is a liar.
Oh,
So maybe I'll have to, yeah. And I think one of the things with perfectionism when it comes to highly sensitives, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is I almost feel like with HSPs, it's almost like we know too much. Like we know how things could be before they're even happening.
yeah.
Yeah. So I will say, I mean, I think that was the one ironic thing between you and I working together. And I think something that probably drove you crazy about me sometimes, I'm just guessing,
Okay.
is that I'm very much not a perfectionist in certain ways.
Yeah.
Like I'll kind of hastily do things to just do them to to just see how it goes. I find that sometimes I have to slow myself down enough to find like that nice sweet middle ground between
Oh, I
there
see.
are some benefits to perfectionism is I guess what I'm saying. There's a reason so many people lean heavily into that because it can create order and it can offer positive outcomes. And then you have this other end of the spectrum where it may be my more impulsive side of me where I'm like, I don't want to deal with all the steps to make it perfect, so I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. That's interesting that you would say that. I've never really thought about it that way, but I guess why I would say I never felt frustrated with that is because I feel like both you and I are both big and small picture people, but with different things. And when you were more kind of micro zooming into things, I could see the bigger picture and I could break it down as a whole. And when you saw the bigger picture, I could say, okay, well, we need to break it down into these steps and do it this way. Or so I kind of felt like that complemented us. But I can see how that cannot always work for everybody working together. I guess that's where the HSP thing comes in because you kind of have a feeling for what the other person may be experiencing. You pick up on nuances, on emotions, on like even in an email, you can pick up on like the undertone of the mail or something like that. So I think it makes the communication and the connection between two people wanting to have the same goal and coming from the same kind of foundations of how they work so much easier if you can align it that way.
Yeah, for sure. But within all of your like really focused, I love that you let go of at the time I didn't love that you walked away from the podcast. Obviously, it was
Yeah.
sad. But on the other hand, I think it opened the doors, it seems like, for you to really, really focus in on what's super aligned with you in a
Yeah.
way. And so, what? You have a store now?
I
Like,
do.
when I saw that, I was just, well, first of all, I had no idea. And second of all, it's super cute.
Thank
How did that even
you.
come to be a thing?
Yeah, so I think sometimes I honestly believe the universe just knows what's going to happen for you. And when I made, and it was a very difficult decision to not continue with the podcast, I didn't know all of these things were going to happen. So I had a health scare. I was like on bed rest for 3 months. I couldn't travel, which to me is like completely damning because
Yeah.
that's my existence
And
almost.
I don't know how much you want to share, but are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm okay now. Now I'm healthy. I'm good. I had a loss in my family. My sister passed away, and I couldn't travel to be with her because I wasn't allowed to travel.
Oh, that's hard.
We launched in the UK, so all these things just kind of happened simultaneously. And then when you look back at something, you think, oh, okay, so that's why I had to start saying no to certain things because I had to have my energy for what was to come. And I really did need all of that. I'm still needing all of that. It's a journey, grief. But in terms of the store and the UK, this really just came about by pure serendipity, I think. I was working from bed. We decided to launch in the UK. We needed a warehouse to keep the stock, and then the store opportunity just came to us in this beautiful old town in Scotland,
It's
in this
so
beautiful
cute.
building. And the lady was looking out to move out as soon as possible because she needed a bigger space, but she'd already signed the lease, and everything just kind of fell into place, and it was just this perfect coming together of things. And we're like, well, why don't we just open a store? We always wanted to open a store. Let's just open a store. And it worked out really, really well.
So it's doing well.
Yes, yes. We
That's
launched in
awesome.
April. The store opened in the middle of April, and we've already won 3 awards.
That's
UK,
awesome.
2 more globally. And we've just started with Reiki healing offered in the store. We've
Wait,
started with,
where in Scotland is this?
yeah, it's a little bit outside of it's like in the middle between Glasgow and Edinburgh in Hamilton.
Okay.
So it's a very nice neighboring town. Very cute, very touristy. Um, and we're offering signature figgy facials, which have
Oh,
become a
that's so
thing.
cool.
So yeah, it's doing
And when are
really
you
well.
going to start a makeup line? Because honestly, I was doing my makeup earlier and I was thinking you should do makeup. Like maybe not all of it, but maybe like sensitive lip gloss.
I know. I was
Just
literally
saying.
just talking to our store manager in Scotland before I got on to this call, and I was telling her
Okay.
I am making sensitive eye mascara. I am so sick of feeling so
Yes.
horrible with every
What a
podcast
good
I do.
idea.
I feel like I want to be scratching my eyes, and they're always so puffy. Then I have to put Roibos on it to take the puffiness away. So we're doing it. I'm
So the reason I throw the lip gloss out there too, though, if you get to it, maybe it's the next step,
yeah.
is a lot of people, and thankfully I don't have this necessarily myself, but if we think about people who have sores or different things that inflame on their mouth, usually their nervous system and their stress is a big key player in that. So I would imagine if you have less toxic materials on your lips, which I think are one of the most permeable parts of the face, and I mean essentially we eat it.
Yeah.
That just I'm just throwing that in the ring as
Oh
a
no,
thought.
for sure. I'm going to consider that because that's also where you often see atopic dermatitis breakouts because the skin here
Right,
is
that
just
too.
so sensitive. So yeah, that I'm gonna definitely add that to my list.
You'll be like, well, Amelia had a suggestion.
Yeah.
So I love the route this conversation's going because it makes me think about something that has been coming up a lot with my clients actually. And I always have this thing, I don't know if it's Mercury is in retrograde, if I even know what that means, but whatever it is, where a lot of different people I work with will have kind of a theme going on.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed with a lot of my highly sensitives and a lot of those with ADHD I'm working with is that they're finding themselves in these ventures or these careers that I have one specific client that comes to mind who is in a really high pressure, very highly monetarily motivating field. And she left, and she left that. Well, and there was a whole story that goes with that. And she's been really struggling with getting back into the workforce. And she keeps procrastinating on applying to jobs and getting really stressed out and being really hard on herself. And she keeps having this mantra where she wants to say, I don't want my job to define me. I don't want my job to define me. And I've been going along with her on this because I do think it's good to have a separation between, our head and our heart, or our work life, that whole work life balance. But then all of a sudden the other day when I was meeting with her, I just was like, you know what? I don't think you can do that. You're a highly sensitive person. As HSPs, we so intimately connect to the work that we do and what we put out into the world. It means so much to us to be in alignment.
Yeah.
So not necessarily that she needs to have a job that, the job doesn't define me. Not that she needs to separate that so rigidly, but does the work you're doing, does the job you're doing align with you?
Yeah.
So I'm curious what you think about that.
It's so curious that you would ask that because, and it's so weird how that would end up for me to be on this podcast and making the announcement. So I completely agree with that. It's very hard to make that separation, especially when you're an HSP and you're a perfectionist. You put a lot of pressure on yourself for succeeding and what success means and how you define it and what failure looks like and what that does to you. And we've made the decision to withdraw from the US market and close Figgy in America. And that was a hard decision to make because now you have all of these things coming up. Did I fail? Did it not work? Am I just not putting enough energy into what I can do? But then it comes back to the point of what you were saying of you're not aligned with what you are doing. And that's how I was beginning to feel. It was a battle for me to get on the plane every time. I was getting tired of the changing time zones. I was in a space the last year where sometimes I would be flying back and forth from Portugal to the States 3 times a month. Sometimes I would land on the Sunday. I would see my daughter off to school on the Monday. I would fly out again on the Tuesday morning. So I would have literally been in 4 different time zones in less than a week.
That's hard for anyone, let alone someone with a sensitive nervous system.
It's a lot. And, then you have to start slowing down and asking yourself, okay, why did I make the decisions I made to be at this space in my life? Why did I even change my career? Because, of course, yes, I had my breaking and my panic disorder diagnosis. I had a lot of things going on. But then I purposefully chose to turn that around to be more aligned with who I want to be more aligned with the message I want to send. And this is slowly creeping away from me at the moment. I'm moving backwards instead of forwards. I'm going back towards what I did not want instead of moving towards what I do want. And it ultimately also comes down to it does come down, I think, to what your heart and your soul also wants and is asking you to do. Where do you feel the connection most? Because it's really, I think, where you shine your best and where you show your passions the best, when you're in a position where you feel aligned, you feel rooted in what you're doing. But it's a hard decision to make. It's hard to separate that head and heart. It's hard to make that decision, and it's very hard not to judge yourself for making that decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, luckily we can all still order online.
Yes, that is true.
First of all, because my daughter would be very upset if she didn't have her cleanser anymore. But, well, first of all, I'm proud of you. I know, I'm proud of you for, I don't want to say I'm proud of you for failing, but I'm proud of you for failing. Yeah. Like, I'm proud of you for saying this is not working and this isn't aligning. I think there can be different facets of it. There can be the failure of not trying something, the failure of not doing. And then there's the failure of, I almost want to say like course correcting.
Yes.
Like course correction failure, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm a big failure, honestly. Like if I looked at the amount of times I've been told no, for every one yes, I'll have about 5 to 10 no's.
Yeah.
It's funny because on the, you know how I write for Psychology Today, right? I have
Yes.
that blog. And when I finally got it, I was so excited. I started writing and I had gone back into my submissions and I realized I'd been trying to get a blog with them for about 8 years.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even realize it just didn't even, I kept at it like every couple months. I'd be like, what about this idea? What about this idea? And I don't know if there's really anything that I've done that I haven't failed a handful of times first
Yep.
or course corrected first. Like I'll sometimes tell the story that I opened my private practice because I got fired from another agency. And it was a perfectly fine firing now that I look back because myself and that owner were so misaligned with each other. It was not love at first sight. It was not meant to be.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like if we look at failure as course correction versus just straight up failure, I think it does ring a different energy.
Oh, 100% agreed. But I do want to like stress because I know that there are maybe others that are in this position having to make a decision. Okay, do I stop? Do I continue? Do I say no? Do I And it's hard to be in that space. Like as we're
Right.
talking about it now, it makes sense. It's still very raw for me. This only happened 2 weeks ago. So I just don't want to like skim over that. I really do understand when you're in that position how hard it is. It's like, it's definitely that head and heart. Like your brain is telling you everything that we're saying now. Okay, what if you see it in a different way? What if you see it as course correction? But your heart and your emotions and the soul that
Right.
you put into it just feels so completely broken and like shaken to the core. And with that, usually comes something like this doesn't just come about, right? Usually
Right.
you've put a lot of effort into it, you've invested energy in it. So it's also that kind of almost burnout that comes with it from everything you've
Mm-hmm.
invested into it. So I just want your listeners to know that if they are going through something like this, it's okay for it to be hard because it is hard. It's very, very hard. But
Oh yeah.
it's it's so, I think, worth it to at the end of the day do something that you feel aligns with you more. Because one of the reasons why I made this decision was I sat down and I made a list of the amount of time that I am spending doing things that I absolutely hate doing. That's just stealing my time and my energy every day, and giving me no joy, not giving me any time to do what I love doing as part of Figgy, and how much time I actually get to do what I love. And then I kind of married that with successful outcomes. Like how many cool things happened because of the one thing I did that I liked doing or was passionate about doing versus the amount of hours I'm spending doing something I don't like doing and the nothing that came from that. And it just didn't equate. Like, we forget that when we're passionate about something and we realign and we course correct, things come easier because we're
Agreed.
more passionate about it, because we're more invested in it, because our
Right.
energy is brighter and newer and not as dulled and exhausted by this kind of constant churn that we get stuck in.
Right. Oh, I absolutely agree. And I'm glad that you kind of like took that compassionate moment to slow down the perspective of this because while I can emphatically say I'm totally fine failing, it doesn't mean that I haven't gotten
Of
frustrated,
course.
shed tears, taken breaks from things. A lot of times, if I keep going to bat and it's not working out, I'll need some distance. I think I just find that the more you do it, the more that like muscle builds,
Yeah.
that internalized muscle builds for that resilience around trying something and it not working out or making a decision that doesn't align, that eventually it's like you have that historical memory of going, okay, this is hurting right now, but I know that shortly thereafter it won't if I give it the space to feel it and then I can kind of do something with it.
Yeah.
And I love what you were saying about the energy piece because I definitely relate to that. there's this funny thing in my world, like and actually I think you're probably similar with this too. When you're doing anything related to outreach, or
Yeah.
you're on any sort of platform, or you're trying to get the word out about anything, whether it be about a podcast or a product, I don't know why people are so obsessed with email lists. I don't like them. I don't like getting I don't like getting contrived emails from people, like where it's just this blanket email, it's going to 500 people. And yeah, sometimes there are these great newsletters, there's some good information in them. But I kept dragging my feet on doing it and dragging my feet. And I realized energetically, I don't like them. So I don't want to do them. And so I find that sometimes, sorry everyone, if you want me to do one, maybe down the road. But I think it's kind of like for me, when I procrastinate, it's usually because my energy is not aligning
Yeah.
with whatever the thing is. Because if it's something I'm into, just like you were saying, the energy and the passion, which is so intimately connected to being a highly sensitive person, it's almost like you can't contain it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I completely agree. It just flows from you so naturally. And I think that kind of energy attracts, obviously, like energy. And then magical things happen. But we don't always take that time to sit down and wade through those emotions, especially when you have a lot going on and a lot clouding your mind. And I
Good
was
point.
just telling my husband on Sunday I had a huge breakdown, which was a long
Oh
time
no.
coming because I hadn't shed a tear since my sister passed. I hadn't slowed down since I was ill. It was just like this
Yeah.
running thing. And Sunday was like the first day, like our literal goal for the day is we're just going to sit at the pool and do nothing and read. So it was the first day I didn't have something to achieve or to do or to take somebody somewhere. And I just completely broke down. And it was so necessary and soul cleansing for me to have to do that because you get so clouded with everything that's going on and this narrative that you keep telling yourself, okay, one foot in front of the other. I just need to survive this. I just need to get through this day. I need to get through this hour. And then that hour stretches into a week and a month. And then you're so confused with all of these emotions and these things going on in your mind. And it's not just work, it's personal, it's grief, it's everything. It's panic attacks. It's so you need that moment to just sit with that and just figure out, okay, how do I unbundle this mess and walk out on the other side,
Yeah.
knowing that it's okay to be stuck in the storm for a while because at some point the clouds are going to clear. It's just a matter of understanding where you get your compass and how you navigate it out.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense when you think about the way that grief, just to speak of grief, because you were talking about
Yeah.
that, the way that grief functions, it needs space.
Yeah.
Like it needs some sort of, you know, not just space, but awareness is not even the word I'm looking for, but a knowing. Like you just, because otherwise it can be confused with so many other things. It can
Oh,
be
yeah.
confused with physical symptoms. It can be confused with anger. It can be almost compartmentalized away so that you can, to your point, function. I even think about, I've had some really good talks with some fertility specialists and acupuncturists, some of which I think you and I were in those conversations together, and how they were saying that a lot of people who have fertility issues or issues with their reproductive system, it's because there's so much stress going on that their body will take the energy it needs to handle the stress and pull it away from some of the necessary functions of our body. And when you think about that, grief actually has a physical impact on us. When you look at the science, I mean, when you are in the midst of it does have an impact on not only the nervous system, but the immune system, your blood pressure, your inflammation.
Yeah.
It needs space to do those things so that you can physically feel and energetically feel the pain. But if all the pain is somewhere else, there's no energy left to do that for your grief.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. A lot.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed the pool day. Now I want one.
Oh, yeah. No, it was definitely needed. But I really agree with what you're saying. I think if I may, you were saying grief was it needs the space. For me, it almost feels like the grief needs to breathe. But it's so hard to feel that grief. You don't want it to breathe. So it's like you're bottling it up and kind of trying to just suffocate it away.
Yeah.
And at some point it is going to explode and be what it should be.
Right. Well, and just to add this too, you are grieving the loss of, I mean, it sounds funny, but the loss of America, the loss of the products being in the States. I mean,
Yeah.
I do have a question about that. Was it just the time and energy and just the overinvestment? Or was it also, this is just an odd marketing question.
Yeah.
Americans are so obsessed with harsh chemicals in our face products. Like, we
Yeah.
feel like if it doesn't have some sort of acid or something in it, it's not doing anything unless you're ascribing to this Korean skincare thing. Did you find the receptivity here, or was it not as you would hope?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of things that led into this. So the first and foremost was the energy it was taking from me to do this.
Right.
Second was everybody who loved the products and the fact that it was more
Oh,
consciously
yeah, 'cause they're amazing.
formulated and curated. But it was very hard to enter the American market. The American consumer just has a different way of shopping, and high-end brands and luxury goods just doesn't translate as well as it does in the European market, especially with the rise of off-price retailers like TJ Maxx, Marshalls,
Oh, right.
Ross. Then the third thing was just the absolute volatility of the market at the moment, in terms of the uncertainty of what's happening.
Oh
Are
my
there
gosh,
tariffs?
yeah.
Aren't there tariffs? Is it like, are we
Yeah.
continuing? Are we stopping? Are we paying more? Are we paying less? It's just so much going on. And
Tell me about it.
yeah, I just didn't have any of those challenges stealing my time elsewhere. Elsewhere, it
Right.
was purely about the message and loving the message and the brand and loving the products and having no barrier to entry. So I didn't have all of these hurdles that I was continuously killing myself to jump over.
Right.
I just reached this moment where like, why am I doing this? Why would you? It's almost like being rejected almost being like in having the guy that really loves and likes you, and then the one you like who's constantly rejecting you and being super mean to you. And you're like,
Yeah.
but
So
I
America
know
was an
I
abusive, gaslighting man.
no, I just it took a long time for me to make this decision, but I feel good about it now.
Good.
But yeah, it was a hard decision to make. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I liked also you had said, why am I doing this? I do think that's it sounds like such a simple question, but I think if people get too fixated on, I have to do this versus why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I think it pulls us away from what highly sensitives have, which is this really beautiful intuition
Yeah.
if we listen to it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what do you think is the difference between intuition and anxiety?
For me personally, think it goes hand in hand. I think it's actually
Okay.
one of the greatest gifts that come with my anxiety. I've learned that there are obviously triggers to my anxiety that I know how to manage, but usually now that I understand it better, when I start feeling anxious about something, my first thought is not anymore, okay, this is 100% for sure a panic attack is coming. It's rather, okay, what is my intuition? What is my body trying to tell me? Because this is a red flag. Like, my first question is why? Why am I feeling this? What has happened in the last hour, in the last day So I don't make that divide anymore because I really think that they are two parts of a whole that needs to be in constant balance. And whenever that scale is out of balance, it tips towards, you know, the not so good, which is a lot of anxiety that not always goes in a good direction. But when I'm in tune with myself and I can figure out these emotions and pintail, okay, why is this happening? I am able to make really good decisions and smart business decisions and but also in my personal life,
Right.
with my daughter, maybe she has an issue or my husband and we're having a conversation. So yeah, I think they're kind of a symbiosis.
Well, it sounds like when you listen to your anxiety as a message rather than a burden to be ignored, it can support your intuition
Yeah.
versus when you view it as something to avoid or ignore is when it becomes more fear oriented
Yeah.
and more likely to drive things like panic attacks or saying yes to things you don't want to say yes to.
Yeah, but again, right? It's the heart and the mind. And I mean, you know this better than you can explain it so much better than I can, but the brain plays such a big role in anxiety and panic attacks and learning how to understand the messages that it's sending you and how that goes through all different parts of your body. So, and we are all trained to be, I think, fact based, right? We want to be reasonable. We want to be realistic. We want to know what the mind is telling us. What is the next step? What is the next plan? And intuition, by definition, is something that isn't tangible to most of us. So, when you're in that really anxious rat race space, you don't tend to think that way because the first thing you grasp to is reality, realisticness, reasonableness, instead of, okay, this emotion I can't explain. Should I investigate it? No, I don't have time. I need to be, on point. I need to be reasonable. I need to be logical. And you ignore it. And since I've done it the other way around, I've managed to see it more as a gift, understanding that it does still sometimes lean more towards the overflow of anxiety, which leads to the panic attack. And that has its own journey with making peace with that and the way that I will always be wired like that. But yeah.
I like especially thinking about what you're saying in relation to a lot of people that I work with because a lot of my clients tend to say, and I feel like I hear this across the board. I don't know if I should be more in my emotion mind or my logic mind. Like people like to separate logic mind and emotion mind a lot. And I know DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, has this thing with emotion mind versus wise mind and all of these. But when I think of wise mind, I think of what the direction I'm going with this. When I have a client or myself or anyone I'm talking to, but I'm really thinking about my clients. When I have a client who is having a really difficult time making a decision, and they say, my emotion mind thinks this and my logical mind thinks this. First and foremost, I want anyone listening to stop putting the logic mind on a pedestal and stop thinking it is the more sophisticated version of us,
Yeah.
because it's truly one or the other are not effective. They need each other. And that's where I think the wise mind lives. And so when I have someone who is stuck on a decision and they're not sure what to do and thinking about this whole intuitive connection to the self, which is especially difficult for people who have been trained not to listen to themselves, maybe because of trauma or gaslighting or, messaging from the world or whoever, is I always go to what you're saying. I always go to the body every single time. I ask them, okay, so when you think about this decision, what do you notice in your body?
Yeah.
Where do you feel that? And so if they say something like, I feel tension in my heart, for example, and I'll say to them, okay, when you think about the alternative decision, what do you notice about the tension in your heart? And a lot of times they'll say, well, when I think about the alternative decision, I feel a softening. That's pretty typically the direction it goes. If it was one way and you think of the alternative idea, you'll notice a shift. Some people listening, and some of my clients, but some people listening might say, well, I don't feel anything. It takes practice. This is not something that's really easy if you've never done it before. But if you really try to start practicing listening to your body's messaging around a decision, that's where I believe the logic mind that we hold so reverently and the emotion mind meet.
Yeah.
Because when you were saying, the head and the heart, the emotions, and let's not forget that science has deeply proven more times than I can count now that the gut is part of the brain.
Yeah.
We must not forget they are almost one. I would go so far as to say down the road, I bet we'll find they're an intermingled organ, especially when we consider so much of our neurochemicals needed to function and feel occur and are created in the gut. So that's another space. I think the gut is where we feel that feeling a lot.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you think about there's these energy therapies that sound really wild, but when you think about the fact that they are based on what I'm talking about, like if anyone has ever have you ever done this as a kid where you're supposed to stand on a foot or something like that, and when you think about something you want, someone like pushes you and you're supposed to be able to stand really strong. And when you think about something that's distressing and they push you, you become
and then
weaker.
You fall over. Yeah.
Yes. How could that not be a manifestation of this? It just makes perfect sense. It's a playful way of seeing what we're talking about.
Yeah. 100%. I love that because I think we do forget sometimes to see ourselves as a whole. As you said, we're always separating between the two, and the one cannot exist without the other. It always needs to be this holistic whole, but the waters become murky.
Absolutely. So, Jeanne, it was awesome getting to catch up with you. If anyone listening who loved our chat today and really what you stand for, I think, as a businesswoman who wants to be in touch with what you have got going on and your fabulous products, which we have in our own home and we love them, where can they find out all about you and get your wonderful products?
Well, I think the best place to go is probably Instagram at figgy.beauty, because that's going to redirect you to everything and show you all the pictures of the new store and all the new products coming out. So, and it would take you to the websites and, my speaking page and everything. So that would be the most, I think the best place to go.
Awesome. Well, I now have your store on my bucket list because it is super cute. And out of all the countries in Europe, because I'm kind of obsessed with checking countries off my list, I have not been to Scotland.
Oh, cool. So you have to go.
So if I go, I'll have to tell you. You'll have to meet me there.
Okay. Deal.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us and for Dr. Jeanne coming back to the Sensitivity Doctor.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everyone. Be well.